so she can join us then. All right, let's get started, and we'll bring Melissa up to speed if she misses
I don't
anything.
have anything, Mama.
What's that? I thought somebody said something. So we're going to start off this evening's agenda with responsible contractor language. I don't know who's leading the way for this specific topic, but we'll turn it over to the administration.
Thank you, Council President. That would be Frank Dombrowski who's going to take the lead tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Before we have 20 minutes allocated for this, so hopefully I'll try to keep it less than that. I'm going to share my screen here with a PowerPoint I prepared. Oh, there we go. Thank you. It's only a couple pages. There's only 5 pages to this PowerPoint. But before I get into the PowerPoint, just want to give a really brief explanation on why we're doing this presentation this evening. As everyone knows, one of the most important functions of the city administration is to work with procurement and contracting procedures and to ensure successful delivery of public work projects. So in the next couple of years, particularly the next 2 years, we're looking at the possibility of tens of millions of dollars of potential public work infrastructure projects that are going to be happening in the city of Reading. A lot of that has to do with the ARP funding. And what we're going to talk briefly about this evening is really broad. It's a broad presentation with the intent of having more specifics later, or I should say very soon. So what the administration is doing is proposing some additional requirements to ensure transparency, accountability, consistency, and uniformity when we utilize public funds for infrastructure projects. And so we're going to talk briefly about what responsible contractor procedures are, or languages. So I'm going to move to the second slide here. And what is the purpose of such procedures? Well, I won't read it verbatim here, but on the PowerPoint, the purpose of having more defined responsible contractor language and policies is to really help reduce the risk of projects not working, to ensuring that these projects get done on time and they get done responsibly. So we have to set some criteria up on defining what is a qualified contractor. And we have to look at their proven track record of providing quality work. We also want to make sure that they're providing their employees with living wages and benefits, because this is a very important priority and policy for the city of Reading. So can everybody see my screen, or I'm looking at it? Did I share it, or just want to double check? No, I did not. Okay, well, that could be part of the problem here. Give me a second here. Okay, well, let's see if this works here. Okay, do we see it now?
Yes.
Okay, I apologize. Thank you. Well, you didn't miss much, really. But we're on the second slide, and it's just basically I went over the purpose of why we do this contractor language procedure. So when we look at contractor language, we talked about the purpose is to ensure that we have good quality projects that are done on time and done responsibly. And the other purpose is to ensure contractors are also holding the subcontractors to these same compliance performance criteria. And this is really important because over the years, we've heard about different projects and different challenges that might have happened. I know council asked us, how do we hold people accountable and what that criteria is. And certainly the purchasing code and our process does talk about what some of these things are. But what we're looking at this evening is taking it to the next level and to ensure some more requirements, some more responsibilities that would help us ensure better projects. So when you take a look at requirements, what does it really mean? What's really required from a responsible contractor standard? What do we mean when we say that? And what you see some bullet points here. And by the way, these are coming from Bethlehem. Bethlehem right now is having discussion on implementing this themselves. So during the research, we looked at Bethlehem, it's the most comparable city to Reading in the region. And some of the issues that we're talking about this evening were brought up in the mayor's transition committee, and it's been stated in the report. So when we look at responsible contractor standards and what that really means, we see that it's important that they're fully licensed and bonded. Well, that sounds like a no-brainer. There's times that we run across issues that they may not be fully licensed. And this is licensed across the board, especially when we deal with building and trades type of craft, making sure that all their employees that are conducting work are properly licensed, either electricians, plumbers, and things like that. It's important that anybody that we contract with to do these important projects, that they don't have previous violations of, and that's really important. So if a contractor has previous violations in the past 3 years, that would make them possibly not eligible to be a successful bidder on a project. It's important that when we have these kind of projects that we have to make sure there's safety training. We are encouraging, and if not requiring, that there'll be a certified apprenticeship program, which I'll explain on the next slide of what that means. And what's consistent with city policy and what we use with public money, we want to make sure that the contractors are properly, and the subcontractors are properly paying a livable wage to their employees. When it comes to public money, like I said, it comes with public responsibility. The money is properly being spent and multiple goals are being met. And that includes paying a livable wage and making sure that subcontractors aren't being exploited and that they all are receiving the benefits of employment. So security, workers' comp, things that you expect from a responsible contractor. And it's important that when we do contract with somebody that they didn't default on any projects in the past 3 years, and that they have the technical qualifications, the proper resources to be able to perform the contract from day one. And a lot of times we do hold we do hold the contractor responsible, but a lot of times you run into problems with subcontractors. So this kind of responsible language would also hold the same standards as subcontractors, because that seems to be where the most challenge is, and the city has a less, control or control over. So we really got to tighten up what we expect from the subcontractors too. Because sometimes contractors use their subcontractors scapegoats to maybe possibly avoid things. So as we go further into this, and we're just talking about it broadly because after tonight's discussion, we're sharing this information with our city solicitor, who's going to take a look at our procurement code and the administrative code and any other legislation to see what would need to be changed, what would be recommended, and the things we can do. But one of the signature parts of this type of proposal is suggesting and requiring an apprenticeship program. An apprenticeship program, and the source of information I have here is actually from the federal government, apprenticeship.gov. This is the federal guidelines on what a good apprenticeship program is and why you would want to consider adding this part of your contract. Apprenticeship programs are very important because it brings high quality paid jobs to the workforce. And one of the pillars of the Moran administration is workforce development. So when you use public money to these very complex and large ticket items of public infrastructure, it's important that apprenticeship programs are part of it. And many other states have adopted this because you develop the workforce, particularly young adults, and by bringing them into the craft trade, by bringing them properly training them, you also hope and have the goal of retaining them, of staying in our community. Many times we talk about the flight of when people graduate high school, off they go, and they move to other communities, they go to college, and they may not always return. One of the goals here is to build up our youth, our young adults, into really good paying jobs and hopefully retaining them by them staying within our community. So like I said, this is a very broad sense. The question is, well, what's unique about this? Why is Reading pursuing this? Well, there's other participating communities who've already adopted this. Look at Bristol, Doylestown, Norristown, Bucks County, Lehigh County, Northampton County. They've all adopted this type of procedure. And as you can see, most of these communities are very close to us. So things become much more competitive. So when you have these apprenticeship programs, when you have these higher standards of contracting, you also have competition. So a lot of communities around us are adopting this, and it only makes sense for us to keep our competitiveness, to keep our quality of public work projects, and also retaining our young adults is to consider adopting this program. Now, I do mention that currently it's under review in Bethlehem. There was an ordinance that was introduced at the end of last year, but because of legislative calendar issues, it's carried over to this year. So they're still having it under review. So what we look is, well, what does this mean? Where do we go from here? Well, as I mentioned earlier, we're asking the city solicitor to review current purchasing ordinances, the administrative code, and take a look at what we have existing, take a look at this broad proposed language and procedures to see if we can incorporate that in our rules. What would it take, and does it make sense? We certainly think in a broad sense that it makes a lot of sense. It brings better quality projects. It meets our goal of workforce development, and it has more accountability. But it really requires solicitors to take a look at our current procedures and see what would need to be changed. So after that's done, the administration will propose some legislation with the new proposed language, and then we bring it back to council to have more of a conversation where ultimately council would be the one to approve, reject, or amend the proposal. So we didn't want to get into like every little detail about it, but we want to share with council that this is what the administration is looking into. We plan to bring back more specific legislation, and we believe the timing of this is really important because we're about to embark on tens of millions of dollars of public work and infrastructure projects. And so the timing couldn't be any better because if this is something we adopt, we'll have greater impact. So that's where we're at now, and we hope in the very near future that we'll have more specifics on what we would recommend in regards to amending legislation. And I would imagine there would be more of a public, not public hearing, but more of a public forum in looking and balancing out the pros and cons of moving that forward. So this is kind of like a highlight of what we're working on and what to expect in the very near future from the administration and what we share with council. So that's my basic presentation. I don't know if there's any questions or comments. I'm available to do that. And that's the end of my presentation.
All right, we'll open the floor for any comments. Who would like to go first? Anybody? Marcia?
Okay, first of all, thanks to the administration for setting this structure. It's something that has been much needed. It's the responsible way of handling any type of contracting. And I think it would be good once the ordinance is finalized that our solicitor as well as council members have a chance to really read through it and then come up with any questions and get the answers, because a lot of these can be very complex as far as the verbiage and such. I'm familiar with these because of the requirements from state contracts, that some of the same language might be in that.
All right, additional comments, anyone?
I have my hand up, Jeff.
Go ahead, Johanny.
Okay, I just want to understand. So before we contract or hire any contractors, this is the set of requirements and criteria, correct?
Yes, I mean, normally contracts are awarded based on the lowest bid. And obviously it's the lowest qualified bidder. So the question is, what does qualified mean? So what we're taking a look at this contractor, responsible contractor language is better defining what lowest qualified bid means. And it can mean a lot of different things. And we do talk about it a little bit in our purchasing code, but what we're proposing is more specifics and more definition on what lowest qualified bidder means.
And then who's responsible to qualify these contractors based on these requirements?
That's a very good question. Looking at the Bethlehem model, and I shared that yesterday in a packet the administration sent out. When you take a look at what Bethlehem has done is that, or they're proposing to do, is there's a certification process. So there's in order to be this lowest qualified bidder or being even a qualified bidder, you have to meet a certain criteria. So before that process happens, you have to go through a certification. And with that certification, we go down a checklist. And in the presentation I provided, I gave you a sample of what some of those requirements may be. So they'd probably be pre-certified. So the contractor knows right from right from day one if they're able to move forward on this. So we're not wasting people's time and bidding stuff and finding out they can't get it.
That makes sense. So they would know what the expectation is before they submit their proposal.
Yes, Councilman, very point, very well, very good point. Exactly. Expectations will know right in the beginning, right away. So that's why we do some of these pre-certifications. But you're absolutely right. We don't want somebody in a situation bidding on a project, because every time a contractor bids on a project, that costs them money. It's not free. They have to do a lot of work. They have to get bonding. It costs them money. So we don't want them to go through the whole process and then for us to tell them at the end, oh, by the way, you really were never going to qualify. But you're absolutely right. We're going to take that proactive step, set the expectations from day one, from the beginning, so everybody's on the same page. But yes, that's well noted.
And then my last question, I'm so sorry. So again, from the administration, which department, like, do we have a compliance department? Do we have, like, who is responsible to verifying that all these documents from this bidder, potential bidder, is accurate, and that, you know, that checklist, that everything is according to what they have stated? You know what I mean?
Well, we currently have a purchasing office, but you ask a very good question. There's only 2 full-time people in the purchasing office. So when we do examine this and we take an internal review and more deeper dive, for lack of a better word, we'll also look at the capacity of us following through with it. And that's a very good question too. We can come up with all these ideas and processes. We have to make sure we have the internal capacity to follow through. So when we go through a deeper dive, we'll have a good idea about what this pre-certification would take, to see our internal capacities, to be able to see how we would manage it. Can we does existing staff be sufficient? Like I say, the purchasing office would be the initial place where this would take place. But we'll be able to come back to this body with very clear specifics on who would actually manage that, and to ensure that we have the capacity to follow through with what we're proposing.
Thank you.
Next, anyone? And I can see most people, but I can't see everyone. So anybody have additional questions? All right. If not, I think that's it for now. Frank, thank you for the overview. And we're going to move on to the next topic on our agenda. And that's going to be the Reading Police Department Chaplain Corps program. And I will turn it over to the administration again. I don't know who's going to lead off the discussion, but the floor is yours.
I think that would be me. Okay. Thank you for the chance and the opportunity of presenting to you what is the Reading Police Chaplain Corps program, and there is a purpose of what I'm trying to do that, and also the purpose of having the chaplain to be sworn in next month, and so in that way we all can be into the accountability as public servants, not just to the police department, but also to the city officials as well. I'm going to share with you the screen, so just allow me to do this. Let me know. Can you see that? Can you see the PowerPoint?
Mhm.
Okay, good. Thank you.
There it goes. It looks good. Nick.
Okay, allow me just to give you so in order for me to bring you into the setting of into the content of history, the chaplain corps has been in existence in the United States since the 1700s, but in a lot of ways it goes beyond even that. It's by those who knows, and historians, it says that it goes centuries beyond. The only thing is that it was not recognized, it was not known as a chaplaincy thing, but eventually until 1700s here in the United States, it became official when the first chaplain was appointed, especially to serve in the forces at during the time of the 1700s on the Continental. Let me move this here. In the Continental Congress, which authorized one chaplain. It's been said, and this is history too, that George Washington, while he was commanding the forces, He used to have a chaplain all the time with him, and he used to consult that chaplain in some of the most critical decisions that he had to make as the main commander leading the forces during the time of the war. Just to give you another content, and to see what's the difference of a pastoral ministry and chaplaincy, because there is a lot of confusions where sometimes a lot of people think that chaplaincy is the same thing as pastoral, which has some similarities, but in reality, it is not. As you look into under chaplaincy, you can see I already highlighted in bold some of the most essential differences of chaplaincy versus pastoral ministry, especially in the settings that we serve. Chaplaincy it's served on a very inclusive setting, meaning that the person that is fulfilling the role of a chaplain understand that he or she serve everybody, everyone who is out there on the field that he or she is serving. It could be hospital setting, could be military setting, could be prison setting, government setting, or corporate setting. Whichever is the setting that he or she serve, he or she understand that he is to serve a population that is out there, independently of the faith beliefs of the individuals that he served or she served. It's an individual who is well-trained and is experienced in crisis ministry, because the kind of setting that he or she served is an individual who needs to respond to immediately to whatever crisis is being experienced in the setting or the field that he or she is serving. And in the case of law enforcement, is someone that is trained to deal with crime scenes and protocols, especially in our case, most of the chaplain in law enforcement around the county and also in the state of Pennsylvania and beyond the state of Pennsylvania. One of the backbones of the chaplaincy program in law enforcement, and especially in police department, is the chaplain doing ride-alongs, in where they serve as a support to the officer that they're doing the ride-along, and I'll explain a little bit more about that. It's someone that is trained to deal with trauma scenes. One of the things and the critical aspects of law enforcement is our police officers, most of the time, in a good, actually average time, they are exposed to trauma. And the chaplains are individuals who are very well trained to identify those moments, those situations, and the impact and the fact that those moments are going to have or can have eventually in that officer. Is usually functioning in a very supportive listener role. Chaplains are there to listen, not to be verbal advisors, which is a completely different, like in pastoral ministry, where the pastor or the priest or the rabbi or the imam are more in a very verbal advisor role. And last and not least, is a more careful about imposition of belief. It's someone that is there not to present a specific religion belief or faith belief, actually, but to listen to the needs, to the emotional, sentimental, or spiritual needs of that individual that he or she is serving. With that being said, I'm going to bring you very fast into what is the purpose and scope of the Reading Police Department Chaplain Corps, and also the mission, the change of command, history, qualifications, and duties. The purpose of the Reading Police Chaplain Corps is dual. One is to provide a core group of professional individuals who have to be ordained or licensed, who have to be fully accredited, so they can provide that kind of service and that need to be provided to the department at all, and also in second to provide counseling or emotional support to members of the department, and also to families and members of the public as well. If there is someone in the city that is in need of or being provided with counseling or any emotional support based on some circumstances and situations that the individuals goes by or live with, then the chaplains are well trained to be that kind of a liaison individual or servant individual that the department can bring into to help them in that aspect, in that role. And that is very important because it takes a burden from that police officer in seeing himself, herself in needing to do that too. The mission and the vision of the and core values of the program, as you can see there, the mission statement. It's a threefold. I'm going to let you see it. Unfortunately, I had to admit that I'm getting old and I need glasses. So in my screen, it's too small, those letters. So please take a little bit of time so you can see it. Because if I try to read it, I can't see it. So you can see the mission statement. Now, the vision statement is to maintain and establish an effective, credible, and professional ministry. Like I said, all our chaplains are qualified, need to be ordained or licensed, but very well-known faith organization. They had to be endorsed also by that organization in order for they had to go through a series of, they had to fill out an application. They had to meet with the chief and the deputy chief or the community liaison officer, in this case, which is Lieutenant Land Lillis, and with me. And then after that, if they qualified, they had to go through a period of probation too. The core values of the program is, of the Reading Police Chaplain is loyalty, duty, respect, honor, integrity, courage, and selfless service. Not limited to those, but every field that you go, it's been every setting, hospital, military, a prison, they all have core values that the chaplains has to know very well and have to abide by, because they're going to be accountable. They're going to be bring it into accountability on living at the high standards of those core values. The change of command in our case is we respond to Chief Richard Tornelli. Actually, it was Chief Tornelli who brought back the program in a lot of way. And if today we are serving the way that we're serving, which I explained a little bit to all of you, is because Chief Tornelli brought the program back into a very well alive program, and with a more holistic dimension. Our program was basically before was just circumscribed to do ride-alongs. Now, since I came on board, because my experience in the Army, where I served 25 years as a chaplain, and has experience of being a prison chaplain, hospital chaplain. I served 20 years as a chaplain with Reading Hospital, now the Tower Health, and I was one of the main chaplains in the ICU. I was a chaplain for the former Community General Hospital, and which I helped to develop that program too. And also at the prison at BCP, and I was a chaplain also on mushroom camps in the area of Muhlenberg. Then I served 25 years as a chaplain with the Army, and I left as a command chaplain. We served then, we respond to, like I said, to Deputy Chief Javier Ruiz, Community Response Coordinator Lieutenant Land Lillis, and then the coordinator. History of the Reading Police Chaplain Corps, so you have a little bit of understanding on how we came to. Back in the 1980s, in 1985, Chief Major Haggerty was the mayor, Chief Steffi was the chief, and Deputy Chief Jarsoprat was at that time the deputy chief. They saw that there was a need in the community. There was some misunderstandings between the community and the police department. At that time, the Spanish community was growing, and there was a kind of misunderstanding based basically in the language barrier. So I was a member of the Reading Council of Churches at that time. So Chief Major Haggerty came forward, and together with Chief Steffi and Deputy Chief Jason Pratt, they reached out to the City Council and asked for help and support. And they asked me if I was able to do something. I didn't have any idea at that time about what was chaplaincy and what we were supposed to do, but I was able to bring together with me 4 Spanish pastors from the city. And I was the first one in doing ride-alongs. At that time, there was a lot of skepticism between the police department and the Reading Police Department and the community as well. But thankfully, we were able to win over those skepticism. And again, at that time was basically for us to be liaisons and a bridge between the two entities, the department and the community, and especially as translators. So I was helping the police department and the police officer when we were doing ride-alongs to translate into. And sadly and unfortunately, Major Haggerty decided not to continue running for the mayor position. And the following mayors that came, they didn't show any interest. And it was not until Chief Broa became, at that time, Lieutenant Broa came to be the chief for the department at the death of Officer Michael Harry Wise, that brought us back and into serving. And again, I came together again to be involved, even though I never stopped from being involved with the department, but not so actively because we didn't have any kind of support. So Chief Broa brought us into, and again, we were just serving as a ride-alongs chaplains, just to support the officers that they were going to do the ride-alongs. Chief Heim took a lot of interest in us, and he kept the program running. And he asked at that time Lieutenant Lionel Carter to take over the program. And but unfortunately, Lieutenant Carter later on retired. And even when he retired, he continued getting involved. But then, unfortunately, sadly, he died. He passed away, and we were without any individual helping us to. Though we continue, 3 of us continue our involvement with the department by just doing ride-alongs. And it was not until a couple of years back, before the pandemic, when Chief Tornelli brought us again back, and then he asked me if I was able to be the coordinator chaplain and to help him to develop the program to kind of a level such as we do in the forces, and provide a more holistic dimension to the program. The qualifications of Reading Police chaplains that you can see, they're there, but basically we are to abide to the high standards of what is expected from us. And we are at the moment accountable to Chief Tonelli, Deputy Chief Ruiz, and Lieutenant Lilis in our performance, and also to the lieutenants that are running the different platoons and the sergeants, and also to the officers. But in a way of responding, our change of command is the one that we are accountable, and with the understanding that we live to the high standards. Every chaplain has to respond to me. Every chaplain needs to, in a request, needs to go through me. And when there is a chaplain that is not living or is not responding to, I'm the one who had to bring that chaplain into accountability, and then let Deputy Chief Ruiz and Lieutenant Lilis know. And something more serious, then we take that to Chief Tornelli. So you got some other qualifications of the chaplains. As you can see, there's some obligations. We also, something very, very key that you had to understand about our chaplain course program is the last one. The police chaplain must honor and abide by a seal of confession and confidentiality. Everything that is being said, everything that is shared with that chaplain is it's by the standard of the state of Pennsylvania. It's being kept by that chaplain. And everything is for the safeguard of that police officer or those serving in different departments around the department. Our duties and responsibilities, as you can see, we are to assist the department and its members and the community as needed, meaning that we are not just to serve the police officer, we are also to obligated and responsible in responding and serving those who are providing support. Like for example, I'll give you an example of the Department of Records Department. They are not police officers, they are staff, they're individuals from the community that are working as a record clerks. And so we are responsible in providing them and supporting them also in the specific needs. So our level of responsibility today and service is not just to the police officer as it used to be before. Now our chaplains understand that the responsibility goes beyond that. So everybody around the department, all the sections, all the divisions, all the units around the department are covered now by a group of chaplains. Our chaplains are divided today in two teams, Alpha team and Bravo team. Every team, Alpha and Bravo, they have on their coverage, what the divisions, what the sections and what the units that they have to serve. And everybody around the department knows that these are the chaplains that you can reach out in case of something happen. Assignments, like I said, not necessarily to the officer, but goes now beyond. Last but not least, I just want to, chaplains, which is very important. Chaplains may not proselytize or attempt to recruit members of the department or the public into a religious organization. They are very well aware that their service, like I said, is an inclusive environment, an inclusive setting, and any kind of religious belief that has to be shared, the chaplains are to understand that they are to serve all those who are professing different religious beliefs to the one that he or she is professing. And that he or she is to serve that individuals in all the dimensions of his or her life. The duties and support is to counsel law enforcement officer when requested, counsel other members of the department also as requested, and also to provide that counseling and support to the families of law enforcement officers all around, and also non-enforcement officers. Do visitations when they are required, either to the hospital, to the home, to the house of. I'll give you an example. There was one of our former police officer, Officer Winter, who was a Captain Winter, who is today the chief for Palmyra Police Department. Just recently, his family was involved in an accident. His 3 kids, the older kid was driving, and so you can understand the dimension of our services. When we knew that they were involved in an accident, we went to support him and his wife on the situation. And because he was a former Reading police officer, so with this, I want to say that our services are not just stay in the city, but goes to every officer that serves Reading Police Department and serving in another department. They know when they move or they transfer themselves that they can continue counting with us as his or her chaplain, because our duties and responsibilities transpire, beyond the geographical area that now they're serving. One of the key things that we try to do, though our police officers, our Reading police officers are not the ones most of the time doing death notification, because it's my understanding that that's more primarily the county detective, the ones that does that, and the coroner. But it's something that we provide because we know what's the emotional levels that a police officer goes with when he or she is the one who has to show up in a home to deliver a news that are the most painful ones and the more traumatic ones. So having the presence of that chaplain there, it helped that officer, but it's also helped the family as well. And also provide support to victims and serve as part of the Department Crisis Response Team, which is something that we are in conversations to be trained and to be certified. So as a chaplains, that can be part of the crisis response teams. So when there is a crisis in the department, then we will be officially and certified to do that. Our duties, as you can see, are based on 6 areas: to assist, to serve, to furnish, to offer, to deal, and coordinate it. We do everything that you can imagine, from death notifications to help in suicide incidents, to also do weddings, baptisms, everything that you can imagine that is a part of. That's what we do in order to provide that support to. We have been, some of the officers have come to us and asked us if we can visit a relative in the hospital. We had done that too. And we had conducted several weddings and baptisms. And so we're there for our officers as well in all aspects of their life. Our current chaplains, so you can see, allow me here. One of our chaplains is Chaplain Gene Farnsworth, who was a former supervisor at the DEA, and who is today an ordained pastor with the Lutheran Church, and who is serving in Birdsboro. So we had some of our chaplains that have military experience and also law enforcement experience. And Jim is one of our chaplains who have previous law enforcement experience, as you can see there. And also, one of the things is that a chaplain had to have certain qualifications, are asked to keep those qualifications updated too. Chaplain Keith Yeager, who also have a military experience and who is a pastor of a non-denominational church, but also who served in the city years ago, working in the code department, and today is working in Wyoming. Chaplain Pam Johnson who has is our only female chaplain, African American chaplain, and who is a member of one of the Baptist churches, non-denominational churches in the city, and who is very well known, and she had more than 15 years of serving the department as a police chaplain. Chaplain Alan Harris, who also have previous military experience and who was a West Point cadet at one point in his life, and who is a co-pastor of a Baptist church in the area of Birdsboro, who actually recently was running for a mayor position in the Birdsboro area. This is me. Some of you already know me. When I got a lot of hair, today I'm not. And questions, you have any questions? Our chaplains are there, not the reason I was asked to have this presentation is because I did my research around the state of Pennsylvania. I have a lot of friends who are chaplains, who are hired chaplains serving in New York. I have family who serve in law enforcement. I have a cousin who retired as a homicide detective for the New York department. I have friends who are working as a chaplain for New York department, and in San Francisco, California, Miami. So I did call them. I have officers who we're still connected that in the Army who serve as police officers in Baltimore, and also North Carolina and other places. And one of the things that I got is that all the chaplains are always sworn in. And one of my goals is that I have to have my chaplains being sworn in by the city council, because it's my understanding that we are not, like I said at the beginning, we are not just to be accountable to the police department, and Chief Tonelli, Deputy Chief Javier Ruiz, and Lieutenant Lillis, since they are our change of command, but also beyond that, we are to be accountable to each one of you who are city council members and who are serving different districts around the city. So our responsibility should go beyond that. And also Mayor Eddie Moran as the mayor for the city of Reading. So that's the main purpose of this presentation, to ask all of you to please allow us to be sworn in for all of you. So that level of accountability goes to a higher level, such as we do in the forces. That's my presentation.
Right, well, thank you, Pastor. We appreciate the in-depth presentation. I will open it up to any council members who have any comments or questions. I can't see everybody at the same time, so if somebody wants, we'll start with Johanny.
Thank you so much, Pastor Camacho. Wow, this presentation was amazing. I learned so much today, and I really had no idea what your department actually did. Is it all volunteer based?
Yep. Yeah, we are all volunteers. And when I tell you the truth, this is, I'm not lying to you. I spend a good time in the department going around, because we're not just to do ride along. Our chaplains are obligated to do 8 hours of ride along, at least in a monthly basis. And we had chaplains that do not just one, they do more than 8 hours. They have a chaplain that does, before the 12 hours, Chief, she used to do 16 hours just in ride alone. I used to do the same, 16 hours. Now we're planning to do more than that, because we're going to do in the 12-hour shift, so that would be 24 hours. But beyond doing the ride alongs, for example, in my case, I go around the department, checking with each session, even though I have my own sessions that I had to, but understanding that the coordinator chaplain, my responsibility goes beyond just the divisions and the units that I have to cover. I'm like in the forces, I understand that the whole department is my department, so I am obligated and responsible to all. So, honestly, I spend probably more than 20 hours a month in the department. And that's just me. I had some chaplain that spend more, almost close to.
All right, any additional comments or questions for the pastor? Marcia?
Yeah, first of all, Pastor Camacho, I want to thank you for your service. I have had the saddened opportunity in my neighborhood where the pastor helped with a tragedy where there was a murder, and came out and brought the neighborhood together. And I think it shows you how powerful it is. And it would happen to be the same week that we also lost a police officer. So that it says to me that our officers so much deserve to have this service with all the stress, the trauma that they experience, that this is so much needed. So I want to again thank you, and I'm sure the officers feel the same way. It just, when we know that Pastor Carter, when he passed, that you were able to come in and fill his shoes and be able to carry out the program.
All right, thank you, Marcia. Any other comments at this time? Go ahead, Donna.
Yes, and just to dovetail with that, I know within the last year or so, Pastor Camacho was up here at Lackawanna and Schuylkill when there was a fatal motorcycle accident, I believe. And I could see how well he diffused the tension between two families involved in that, of the victim, and that was that was great to see, and I appreciate his efforts there, helping again to diffuse the situation that could have gotten out of hand. And I saw that firsthand, and I appreciate that for keeping everyone safe and calm. It takes a special effort to do that, and I'm also grateful that you mentioned Lionel Carter. We all loved him very much. It's nice to remember him and all the good he did as well. So thank you to all of your folks, yourself, and of course posthumously to Lionel. So thanks a lot. We value all the efforts you make for our officers and for the public at large.
Thank you.
All right, are there any additional comments? If not, I want to echo everyone's comments, Pastor. I don't see any issues with moving forward with the swearing in process. I don't sense there's any objection from council. I'm going to ask that you coordinate that with Linda moving forward. And yeah, it makes sense. So we appreciate the presentation, the request, and the opportunity to do that process, because I think it does add a little more just kind of underscoring to the effort as well. So thank you, and good luck to your team.
Thank you. Yeah, see you all.
Thank you. All right, everyone, we're going to move on to the next item on our agenda. Is it Bethany?
Yes.
Bethany Ayers Fisher, you are going to lead the way on this discussion. We have you down for about 15 to 20 minutes, so we'll turn the floor over to you, and welcome.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen. And go to present. Okay. Thank you all for allowing me to come tonight. I am the new sustainability manager for the City of Reading Public Works Department, and I want to say Happy New Year to everyone, and I'm excited to be working with you all. A second about what the sustainability department is all about, and that is to use the triple bottom line kind of lens as we make decisions for our community and our projects and programs that we offer in our community. So it's making sure that our continued prosperity, our people, and our planet are all cared for as we move forward in our work as our community stewards. I was presented in the middle of December with a new program called the Reading Climate Corps. And this is essentially a workforce development program. There is a National Climate Corps proposed by the Biden administration and is currently being championed in the Senate by Senator Bob Casey. And the Delaware River Climate Corps is a pilot program of 10 communities in the Delaware River watershed, which we are a part of as part of the Schuylkill River, to address community and infrastructure needs as we face climate changes locally. So the Delaware River Climate Corps is a collaboration between the William Penn Foundation and the Corps Network. And it's focused on using proven models, equitable recruitment, and partnerships around our watersheds, and $120,000 for each of 10 communities, with hopes of federal and private funding. Reading has been paired with Philadelphia's Climate Corps, which has been operating for 8 years, and it was originally part of the Philadelphia Water Department. And they're going to share their administrative and programmatic resources with us to help us develop our own program. One second here. This is the model that the Power Corps uses down in Philadelphia to develop their workforce development training program. So they're recruiting young adults in need of an opportunity. They're aligning with potential employers and providing those hard and soft skill training needed for employment as environmental and community stewards. The program supports to reduce and remove barriers to employment. And it's basically celebrating individual successes through community advancement. They do use a combination of classroom and in the field job training, similar to an apprenticeship model for people who didn't really realize that these types of jobs were available to them. And then this is taken from the Philadelphia Power Corps. And we will be focusing on, in our initial pilot year, of the recruitment and foundations while we develop the phase 2 parts. So there's different types of fellowships, industry academies where they can go on to, while they're still within the Corps, to develop skills that are needed. And then also they can continue to serve as a Corps member, as an assistant crew leader, to develop those management skills. The Reading Climate Corps vision will start off with a pilot corps of 1 crew, and it will be 10 Corps members referred by local recruitment partners. And we're focusing on young adults facing barriers to employment. We will be focusing on foundations training, and it will be managed locally by a program manager and crew leader. We're in the process of developing service partnerships, and those partners are currently RAWA, Berks Nature, and the City of Reading Public Works. Power Corps will be providing for us, as we develop the program, administration of personnel, HR, AmeriCorps and grant reporting, curriculum design, their templates, development support, as well as their supportive services, resources, best practices. And then we'll be tailoring them to our needs up here in Reading. There are a lot of benefits to having a Climate Corps in our community. To the Climate Corps members, this is a 900-hour paid work training program. So that's approximately 35 hours a week over 6 months. They will be earning their skill certifications, like their OSHA 10 and other appropriate certifications. Upon completing the foundations program, of the foundations part, they will be gifted approximately $3,000 of an educational stipend to use for further training at any accredited program. So things like RAC or Berks Technical. And it's also a pathway to employment by local environmental and community steward agencies. So not only Public Works and RAWA, but other municipalities, the county, the county parks and conservation districts, and those types of employers. For the Climate Corps service partners, which could potentially be Public Works, much needed assistance with appropriate deferred maintenance projects. Many of the projects that we need help with, we need hands. And this would be a great way to partner with the young people in our community and provide them a paid job and job training to help us complete these projects. We'll also be receiving the same best management practice training with the Climate Corps members. So we'll be aligning our trainings together. This is more affordable than contracting for outside labor for these types of projects. It's also a recruitment pipeline for us. Many of our team members are getting a little too close to retirement age. And so we need to really start looking at who our next talent is going to be in our organization. And then one of the benefits that would come is also helping mentor the next generation of our community stewards. This is where we are right now. So we have moved from the feasibility study, which was completed in December, and into the planning process. So proposed community service project partners currently include City of Reading Public Works Department, RAWA, Berks Nature, Berks County Conservation District, and there's some others, and I'm sure we'll be getting a lot more others interested as we start talking about this. The proposed community support and foundation and financial partners also include CareerLink, Berks County Community Foundation, Berks Nature, and again, others as interest is expressed. And right now we are working on our needs identification and recruitment of local partners. So we're focusing on our local needs, our local resources, and what our members' interests will be. So just a general overview of some of the work that our Climate Corps partners might be doing with us. So things like invasive plant removal, green stormwater infrastructure installation and maintenance, assistance with blighted lot remediation, tree planting and maintenance, and additional city beautification projects. So here comes to my ask. The Reading Climate Corps is about 60% funded through the William Penn Foundation and through the Corps Network, but we are still looking for $134,000 from local resources. One of the main issues that we have found is simply because of the timing of the feasibility study, and because we are looking to start a program for this year. The goal is to have Climate Corps members ready to go in mid-April. So we are looking for some funding, hopefully from ARP, to complete out the funding package. We will need to pass a resolution for an MOU between the City of Reading and the Delaware River Climate Corps. And then our future needs, we will need to have a line item budget, a line item of between $50,000 and $75,000 a year for future program year support. And then I would not be here tonight if I didn't think this would be a good investment for us. It will introduce young adults in need of a career opportunity to organizations in need of employees. It'll help support young adults in obtaining and maintaining really good paying jobs. And it will also help support the community maintenance and beautification projects with local labor in the neighborhoods where our Corps members will live. So I know that's a lot of information, and I'm happy to answer any questions that I can.
All right, well, Bethany, thank you for the presentation. I do have a comment or two at the end, but I'll open it up for anybody else who has a comment first. Who would like to lead off with any comments or questions?
Council President, is it okay if I make comment on behalf of the administration, just a brief comment to
That'd be
supplement?
fine. That'd be great, and then we'll go to Johanna.
Sure. Well, thank you. No, thank you very much. Just to put in perspective what Bethany just shared with the body, as many of you are familiar with, back in the 1930s, we had the Civilian Conservation Corps, which is part of WPA, the Works Progress Administration. And that program in the 1930s really created the legacy of a lot of our park amenities that we still enjoy today, such as the field houses, a lot of work at City Park, Pandora Field House, the Bear Park. All this was done during that era. So obviously times have changed a little bit in a sense, but this is the new version, I believe, of that program from the 1930s. So I think it brings a lot of value while it helps target the population we're working with, young adults, to give them the skill sets, but also we're looking at some really cool and really incredible amenities that can grow from this for our parks and recreation so we can enjoy. So this has been done before in the 1930s, but 90 years later, we see the modern version of what's being proposed here. So we saw the past successes, and we hope this program, if it's approved, will see current and future successes.
Yeah, and I do want to thank Jamal Abedabo, who really championed this through the feasibility study stage, and it looks, we got approved. So now it's time to run with it if we can.
Okay, Johanny?
And thank you, Bethany, for the presentation. I think this is great. I think this is we should definitely pursue this, but I do have some questions. Is this an AmeriCorps program?
It is, yes, it is an AmeriCorps program, but unlike other AmeriCorps programs that focus on college students, this is not focusing on college students. This is meant to be a pathway for people who are not in college to join an AmeriCorps program and get all of the benefits of an AmeriCorps
Because I
program.
understand with AmeriCorps, and I share this because when I worked in New York, I had an AmeriCorps program. So I understand that anyone 17 and older could be recruited into the program.
Yes.
But who received the AmeriCorps contract? Was it the organization that you mentioned, Delaware?
So Delaware River, the Delaware River Climate Corps Foundation, that is going to be the AmeriCorps umbrella that each of the 10 communities will be working through. Reading has been paired with Philadelphia specifically because they've been doing this for 8 years very successfully to help us build out our program.
So how many slots do we, the city of Reading, have?
The pilot that we're hoping to run this year will be one cohort of 10 students. We know we're on a tight timeline and we want to do a really good job building out our program. And then as it goes on, it would be expanded. Philadelphia is currently running 8 cohorts a year. But that's after, many years of doing this. And so hopefully we'll get there, but
So
we'll start out with one cohort.
So the Delaware organization, they're going to provide financial oversight, management of the program, compliance, reporting. We just recruit our cohort,
Yeah.
supervise and place them and
Yeah.
monitor them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there'll be a separate, it won't be Public Works doing that. We'll be partnering with them, but they'll have their own separate cohort, cohort managers. They'll have their own separate kind of HR management and training, and then we'll be partnering with service projects and helping with funding.
And this is, I recall you saying that it's 6 months. Is it
Yeah.
only for 6 months, the
It-
cohort?
The initial cohort will be the phase 1 foundations, which we're looking to do for 6 months. As the program gets built out, we're hoping to do a full 3-year pilot, and the Delaware River Climate Corps is offering funding for 3 years. So as everybody builds out their programs, but this initial pilot cohort to run this year will be just the first section as we build out the second. So it'll be a combination of building the program as we're doing the program.
Got it. But the goal is to have it for 3 years and then continue to reapply, or they'll reapply and we'll keep a cohort?
Yes. Yeah, at that point, we'll be our separate self-funded, self-running cohort.
We want to apply, right? We want to have our own AmeriCorps program.
Yeah, yep, under the
Okay.
umbrella of Delaware
I
River.
like that.
Yeah.
I like that. And then the 134,000 request is for what specifically?
That is to help funding with salaries, vehicles, and tools
For our city employees.
for our city only. So for our cohort, and it's a little awkward because of the timing of things. Like this could have been something that everybody could have put some money in, as a line item in their budgets. But because of the timing, we didn't have the opportunity to do that. So that's why I'm here requesting additional funds to get the pilot started this year.
Oh, that sounds really good, Bethany. Thank
Mhm.
you.
Hi, Brianna. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. It was really helpful. I had a question. How did you come up with that figure? The
The 134,000 is from the budget that has been provided to us from the Delaware River Climate Corps feasibility study that was done. And I will, if I haven't gotten that over to you yet, I will make sure that you have that, so you can go through that.
oh, okay, thank you. Thank you. That would be nice.
Jeff?
Go ahead, Marcia.
Okay, I just wanted to be recognized by the chair. Thank you. in looking at these projects, Bethany, they are environmentally focused.
Yes.
Okay, but we also know we have a lot of needs in our older parks, as you pointed out, that were built during the Conservation Corps. How can you tie those together as far as projects go?
A lot of the projects that we're currently identifying are things like we need to replace trees that were lost during Hurricane Ida in Mineral
Okay.
Springs Park. Making sure any deferred maintenance that they can help out with in our parks, especially also in the preserve with invasive species, invasive plants and things like that. So we will be simultaneously working to identify those projects within our department and also with our sister agencies.
Yeah, would that like tie into some of the water flow problems we have coming off the mountain?
Yep.
Okay, because that's been a real challenge with climate change.
Yes,
we've
it
seen
has.
It's built is slowly being, I don't even know what you call it, eroded, but we're just losing the paths and that the trails and such.
Yes, and the other one of the other benefits too is it just increases our capacity between RAWA and Berks Nature and Public Works. We're all doing this work, but we need more hands, and we also need to be developing skilled talent to come and work with us too.
Okay.
So it's really a win-win-win. So I will make sure that you all have the budget and the other notes. I've been furiously writing in between meetings for everybody today to have a good fact sheet and things as we progress.
Well, thank you for your hard work. Very much
Oh, thank you. This sounds like a really terrific program, and I'm excited to bring it to Reading.
Right, additional comments, Johanny?
One last, so will you be then the point person, Bethany, to kind of like provide supervision, keep track of the cohort's hours, troubleshoot with their supervisor and program participant?
We are
somebody in mind.
There is that will be done mainly by Power Corps in Philadelphia with support from myself and Kyle and our other community partners. But we're, like I said, we're going to be building as we're doing. So
yeah. I would also, I don't know if you're aware, but I know that the Olivets Boys and Girls Club, they have an AmeriCorps program.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you wanted to kind of like get feedback, just, you know, things that they might have come across in facilitating this program. Just more information is always good.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Any comments? Okay, well, thank you, Bethany. I just will make, one comment. We're going to begin in February, kind of a due diligence process on all the ARP funding for the newer members of council. That's the American Rescue Plan funding that was allocated to the city of Reading last year. Some of it's been allocated, but most of it has not. And most of it has been coming through the administration, of course, to streamline and keep the process orderly. So hopefully, all the information that's been requested here this evening will be available and will be presented as part of that process. I want to make sure, just from an organizational standpoint, we're keeping everything organized. So appreciate the overview, and we look forward to hearing a little more. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. The next item on our agenda this evening, unfinished orientation topics. I think the only issue we have from last night, everyone's been asked to look at the vacancies from Lucene and Strat, and to look at the existing committee opportunities before next week. I did start some work today with Linda on the committee setup and the agenda for the committee of the whole topics. We hope to have a more formal agenda for the next 2 to 3 months laid out to share with everybody and get feedback. But there's just one open item that I'm aware of, and that was we were going to discuss the VP nomination this evening. I know typically, as we've discussed in the past, we try to rotate in turn to give those who haven't had a chance to play in that role, and for a number of reasons to get everybody groomed into these types of positions. So when we need somebody to help with leadership or to fill in covering for the meetings, we have everybody eventually trained. We've been discussing Johanny as a candidate for many, many months because it's just her turn in line here, and we feel she's worthy of the spot. I didn't know anybody else had comments on that. We're not going to do a formal vote tonight. When we're done talking about it, just want to see if anybody has any objections. If they don't have any objections, we'll consider it affirmed verbally until we do a formal vote next week, only because we do have a requirement to try to get this appointment done sooner than later. Does anybody else have comments on that specific discussion point? No? Does anybody have any objections on the selection of Johanny as the Vice President of Council?
Nope.
All right. All right. So we'll consider that as appointed, but we'll ratify it formally per our solicitor's guidance at next Monday night's meeting. Did I miss anything else from last night's orientation topics that we needed to cover tonight? I think we got through most of the issues. All right, go ahead, Marcia.
Just for the body to know, we did have a nominations committee meeting today with those that were still remaining, so there is an open slot there.
That's right. That was the request. If anybody has any interest in the nominations committee, if not, we're going to have to move that as part of our committee of the whole. So please give that consideration between now and next Monday. Anything else from orientation? Unfinished? All right, anything else for public discussion? Because the only other item we have this evening is going to be an executive session regarding some legal matters. But before we go into an executive session, is there anything anyone needs to discuss publicly? Jamar?
Can I just ask, is the finance committee going to be restarted or no?
Yeah, well, we're gonna be, when you say finance committee, I don't want to confuse it. We're going to be, as part of our committee, the whole structure, we're going to be creating a finance, a public works, a public safety, and an economic and community development committee. Just so we can focus more within the committee of the whole structure on those specific topics on a regular basis. Now, I know you and Marcia may have had some other finance committee. I want to make sure you're not referring to something else. So Marcia.
Yeah, let me just clarify. Okay. So we will be conducting the finance committee as part of the committee of the whole. We reached out to Gordon just to be able to look at what some of the reports we might want to review, and that would be on a monthly basis. But we will still continue to have the audit committee as a separate committee, as well as looking at the capital committee and such. So they'll still be running separately. And, we'll have appointments from council for those committees. Does that help you, Jamar?
Yes, I was just curious. It's been bandied about before, and I didn't participate last night due to the holiday, so I wasn't sure what was discussed. Last year, we had talked about quarterly reports, and you just mentioned monthly, so that's just new information.
Yeah, and maybe we need to talk about which reports are feasible to be monthly and which one would be quarterly. But I think it helped that PFM was giving us some guidance as far as the reporting. So, and I can and to both to Abe, the mayor, and to yourself as far as the response from Gordon.
Okay, Donna?
One thing to add to these committees and things that we had requested in the past that I'm not sure which committee they fall under, but we had requested monthly quality of life reports for each of our districts. And we have not seen that. So that, I believe, Linda, we need to add that to for a monthly report. I don't know if that wouldn't necessarily fall under public safety, but maybe what we could do is have a combined committee that would be a little different, that one would be quality of life, but then I think we also critically need updates, very basic updates. And I know I watch the meetings, I'm sure many of you guys do, but zoning and planning issues. We need to know exactly from zoning and planning staff, what is going on, what are the critical issues, even just a basic report, what has been approved, what is in the pipeline, what has been appealed. A very simple report, but we should have that too as we go to these committees. So maybe we can have some kind of hybrid committee that would have those particular things, quality, zoning, planning.
Yeah, Donna, we're going to have an economic development committee as well. We didn't necessarily.
Okay, so it can fall under that, however it works, but we've got to have a direct report from the administration to council regarding those. I mean, I know everybody tries to keep up with it. I certainly do, but we need to have, instead of just watching it on BCTV on Facebook, we need to have those reports directly to us.
All right. Anything else for public discussion this evening?
Yes, yes, Council President, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
I just want to make an announcement for the benefit of the public and for members of the City Council. And that's that the federal government made a major announcement today by saying that free at-home COVID-19 tests will be available. Every home in the United States will be eligible to order at least free 4 at-home COVID-19 tests. And the tests are free, and the orders will usually ship in 7 to 12 days. It's just another tool in our toolkit to combat this awful disease and infection rates. And as you know, City Hall is closed for 2 weeks, returning hopefully on the 31st of January. So all those tests can be found online. They can be ordered in Spanish and in English. And it's covidtests.gov. That's covidtests.gov. And we hope that the public takes advantage of this. Thank you.
All right. Are there any additional comments for public this evening? Go ahead, Donna.
Yeah, I have some concerns in terms of how operations at City Hall are going. How does that work? If we have, someone needs to call the mayor's office, do they get someone from the mayor's office? If someone needs to call the zoning office, do they get someone answering that phone? Does it come right to a cell phone? If someone needs to call any of our offices, accounting, finance, is there someone there that can handle the calls? I need to know, because I'm hearing some concerns that people feel that there is a dearth of communication, and that does everyone have a laptop that is working from home? Laptops is fine. How is the business of government continuing? And quite frankly, my concern, and we want everybody to be safe, but my concern is if the courthouse can operate as they're operating and effectively be open, people on juries, why are we then 2 blocks away closed? I'm very concerned that, you know, I want everybody to be safe, but I'm also concerned about the production and the business of government moving forward. And how can we as council be reassured that that is happening when?
Yeah, I'd be happy to answer that, Councilor. First of all, the reason why City Hall was closed is because when I came back on January the 3rd, we had 16 positives within City Hall. In 2 weeks'
Do
time,
we know what
it went
happens
up
at the courthouse, Abe? They must
Donna,
have.
if I can just finish, Donna, and then I will be more than happy to answer your questions, but please allow me the luxury of at least completing the answer to dissuade any other misinformation that may be out there. So we went from 16 to 51. I was told that we're up to 62 today. So in an abundance of caution, we closed down City Hall. The services continue. If folks need to reach somebody at City Hall and they don't get a live person, it goes in a recording. We have people constantly checking those recordings to make sure that the services are provided and the questions are answered on a timely basis. This is not our first rodeo with COVID. In fact, we've improved several systems since the last episode that took place. But when I saw that we were at 51 positives, that's 1/10 of our workforce. And most of those are in City Hall. So that was very disconcerting. So we're not going to compromise the safety of our employees because of other entities doing things their way. That's fine. That's wonderful. And I applaud them for that. But we're taking extraordinary measures to not just keep our employees safe, but also to make sure that the services continue in a timely fashion with as minimal interruptions as possible. I've been working since 8 a.m. this morning, and I felt very productive as well off-site. And I've talked to directors. In fact, today was my director's reports before the committee of the whole. I know that the directors are doing their due diligence as well. And I know that employees, especially those that need to come into City Hall for whatever reason, essential employees, we already have lists from those directors, which I requested last week during our directors meeting on Tuesday. So I have a list of those individuals that need to come into City Hall, that whether they need to check in on something, they need to print off a document, and we've got to keep our accounting moving as well. Jamar provided me with a list of essential employees to keep those things moving, because we learned from the lessons from the past. Last January, when we were shut down, some things gummed up. We're not gumming up anymore. We're moving the operations of government in a very smooth and orderly fashion.
All right. Any additional comments?
Just two more, just really quick, Council President. The Citizen Service Center monitors iRequest queries that come in. They have remained fully staffed, even when we need to go and work remotely. Also, everyone that needs a laptop has been issued a laptop. We
Good.
recently received a shipment in order that was placed last February 1st. Those laptops just came in December, and they are ready for staff as needed. So anyone that needs it, we provide the equipment that's needed for them to work.
Council President,
Yep, go ahead, Marcia.
this isn't a question, but just a reminder, especially to our new council staff, is that we do have not laptops, but iPads for council members to use, to be able to. And one of the reasons I bring this up is I see people sometimes struggling to be able to get on both visually and also, with sound. And so we do have those iPads that will really help with that. And I think the IT department's ready to assist, since we're going to probably be doing virtual meetings for quite a while. I think we need to be able to make sure we have all the technology we need. And I know it's helped me, that gives me that I can look on the agenda on one of the devices and do the Zoom meeting on another. It's very helpful.
And Council Chambers is currently under construction, so that hybrid environment project that you all approved last year, that should be done within the next couple of weeks, if you'd like to do that.
Yeah, go ahead, Donna.
Yeah, and I just want to commend Linda Kelleher for being on staff and in the office. It's very important, and I thank her for council having a physical presence in City Hall and being there. So thank you, Linda.
All right, if there's nothing else for public discussion that I'm hearing from anybody, we are going to be going into an executive session to discuss legal matters. So I'm going to ask Linda to stop recording and remove everybody that doesn't need to participate. And when we're ready to go, Linda, please let us know. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for attending.
So just to clarify, now we're gonna, because I'm still new. How does so we're supposed to now make a decision on what was provided to us? Is that what that's not what we're gonna do?
No, Brianna, let me explain. So we're now in what we